He's such a sensible and worrying-free kid. Maybe it's the most common compliment we've heard since childhood. In many people's eyes, being sensible is the highest praise for a child. But when we grow up, we find that those well-behaved kids who never cried, were considerate and accommodated others everywhere in childhood are more likely to fall into anxiety, depression, and self-doubt as adults. This is not a coincidence, but a deep psychological rule. In fact, a child's obedience is never a sign of maturity, but a survival strategy. True sensibility is heartfelt consideration, but many well-behaved kids are forced to be sensible. They dare not say what they want for fear of being called greedy. They dare not cry when wronged for fear of being labeled unreasonable. When their parents are in a bad mood, they will take the initiative to read the room and hold back their tempers, always saying, "I'm fine," and "I don't need it." Subconsciously, they firmly believe that only being obedient deserves love, and only not causing trouble will not be hated. They give up their identity as a child early and live like a little adult. Long-term self-suppression is the root of psychological problems in adulthood. A well-behaved child's needs are constantly denied, and they default that their feelings are unimportant, getting used to sacrificing themselves for others. Negative emotions are never accepted. Crying is criticized, anger is blamed, and emotions can only be suppressed inwardly, eventually turning into sensitivity, inferiority, or indifference. More importantly, their sense of boundary is completely blurred. Being taught to obey and tolerate since childhood, they dare not refuse or express dissatisfaction when grown up, falling into repeated mental friction in relationships. Repression in childhood always strikes back in adulthood. Those unexpressed emotions and unmet desires will not disappear with growth, but will erupt as psychological problems. Well-behaved kids are most likely to fall into 3 psychological predicaments: developing a people-pleasing personality, always putting others' feelings first and losing themselves, falling into extreme self-negation, being tortured repeatedly by a single criticism, having intimate relationship disorders, longing for love but fearing injury, struggling between approaching and retreating. It's never that the child is not good enough, but that disobedience is too hurtful. A healthy childhood allows children to cry, be willful, and make mistakes. A child who is fully loved does not need to exchange obedience for a sense of security. However, a child who is forced to be sensible spends their whole life making up for the lack of childhood, what they dared not ask for when young. They desperately compensate for when grown up. If they were not favored in childhood, they cannot believe they are worthy of love when grown up. So I want to say to you who were once a well-behaved child, you don't have to be sensible anymore. Your feelings are never a trouble. You deserve to be loved not because you are obedient, but just because you are you. You can refuse, be angry, and not be so considerate. You don't need to satisfy everyone. Just be honest with yourself. When you were a child, you chose to be sensible to gain love, and now you have the right to live for yourself. Healing is never forgetting the past, but finally daring to admit that I deserve to be treated gently, especially by myself. May every child who was once obedient enough to make people feel sorry live a free and open life in adulthood, no longer wronged.